I am so excited to interview one of the most amazing women here in Oklahoma City, Mrs. Joyce Jackson, who I've recently learned was the first African American woman on air. And I am super thrilled about that. That used to be one of my dreams and goals. So she's my hero. She is also a publisher and editor of The Shade of Oklahoma magazine, which is amazing, and also a board member of the Freedom Center, which is a central location that we'll talk about in the African American community, and it is an amazing place. She was also a student of Mrs. Clara Luper. So help me in welcoming this sweet lady, Mrs. Joyce Jackson. Yay! Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Talk a little bit about the Freedom Center. Let's start there because I think that it is a jewel in Oklahoma City that is somehow overlooked or not talked about as much as it should be. So let's talk about the Freedom Center.
Well, the Freedom Center actually started in 1967. Miss Luper decided, it was after the sit-ins, after we had participated in the sit-ins in Oklahoma City. But it was a place for the NAACP Youth Council. I was a member of the Youth Council because I was one of her students in her history class at Dungy High School. And so I participated in the sit-in for many, many years. And the Freedom Center came about, like I said, it was the Freedom Center Incorporated, which was a group of local volunteers in the Oklahoma City area that was very involved, had been very involved with the sit-in movement. And that was people like Hannah Atkins, who was state representative, of course, her husband, Dr. Charles Atkins, and several other people that were quite well known in the community, Senator E. Melvin Porter, lots of people that most people would know their names because they were involved with the sit-in. And of course, when they pulled together the Freedom Center Incorporated, which was done in '65, they reached out they were looking for a place and located the empty mobile station. It was a mobile station there on Martin Luther King. And what they did is they raised the money to purchase the mobile station from the Mobile Corporation, and I think it was around $25,000 that they raised to purchase that. And it was to be a place for disadvantaged children, for children to learn about civil rights, about civil duties, about education, about history. All of those things were a part of our teachings that Ms. Luper trained us in. Lots of things. Even though she was a history teacher, whenever we were with Ms. Luper for a meeting, we always learned something new. And so it was a place to really train and educate students about history, civil rights, education, all of those things at that time. And so it was firebombed in, I think, 1968. And they never found the person who who burnt the building, who bombed the building. They never located that person, but it was arson. And so it took a couple of years for them to pull it back together, to rebuild it, to refurbish it. 1969, the mayor was involved, Mayor Ron Nork was involved with helping to raise funds to to refurbish and renew the Freedom Center, and so was Governor George Nye. The building was open in 1970, it was reopened in 1970. And it stood all those many years for the work that we did, the training, the mentoring programs, the voter registration drives, the fundraising. It became a place for community meetings. And of course, it was the location that we used to prepare for the sanitation march, which was in '69. And so I was involved in the sit-in I was involved in the sit-in really up until 1962.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that a little bit. I don't mean to cut you off, Ms. Jackson, but so how many sit-ins were you involved in? Let's talk about how many sit-ins you were involved in.
Well, I really can't remember the exact number. I just know that I was involved in the ones downtown, like Johnny Brown's and a lot of the restaurants. I think it was cafeteria, and the restaurants downtown, mostly. I don't remember, but I did not participate in the one where she went to Lawton and where she went to Tulsa. I didn't get to attend those, but I would say over the years, probably, probably over 100, sitting in with Miss Luper, but I don't remember the names of all the places.
So I have a question about that. That's like not, just kind of off the cuff a little bit. Like, what was the feeling? This is just my own personal question. What was the feeling during that time when you were doing those sit-ins? Was it a feeling of empowerment or just a feeling of pushing the needle forward?
Well, I tell you, our parents were afraid. That was their feeling. They were afraid for us to participate. It took a lot of talking to my mother and father for them to allow me to participate. They were afraid, but of course, as children, we weren't afraid, and anything. We loved Miss Luper, and we were all part of the NAACP. And like I said, every time we were with Miss Luper, she was teaching us about something, and she made history important to us, exciting to us, and made sure that we learned about Black history, because a lot of the books at that time did not have Black history. And so our feeling was that when she said that we are marching, we are sitting in so that we will be treated equally, so that we will be able to go into any restaurant and eat like anyone else without having to go to the back door, having to not being able to try on clothes because they wouldn't allow Blacks to try on clothes. So the feeling was, I guess it was in a sense of empowerment, because we were so confident in Miss Luper that anything that she said we were going to do, we were going to make it happen. We just knew it was going to succeed because Miss Luper said so.
I will tell you this, Miss Luper was a really good friend of my mother's. My mother judged the pageants for her for many years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was a little miss in a lot of the pageants, and Miss Luper did teach you a ton of things about how to stand up straight and hold your head up and be a part of, society. I think that everything that I do to this point, I credit to Mrs. Luper, and me and her kids were pretty close. So I get it. She had a way of charging you and making you excited to do whatever she needed you to do.
Absolutely, because I was a little bashful when I was in her class when I was younger, and one of the things that she always said is walk like you know where you're going and talk like you know what you're talking about.
That's
And
exactly right.
He's always giving us some kind of instruction or some kind of education about something, information, and she was wonderful. And of course, that's what I said. We didn't understand our parents being fearful, but of course, it was a time to be fearful because blacks were not allowed in a lot of places, and all kinds of things were happening across the United States. And but we were young enough to just believe in our teacher and not have a problem.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So let's talk about the process of how about the renovation and the idea for the Freedom Center and how it became a part of the MAPS proposal.
Well, it was just, well, actually, the Freedom Center had been sitting since 2011 and basically falling apart. And then the city decided to designate it as a historical landmark. And in that process, people started paying attention because they put the building in receivership and they put it under our county commissioner, Willa Johnson. And because she was in the process of retiring and taking a medical leave, she asked them to place the receivership in someone else's care because she was retiring from county commissioner. And so it was placed under Leonard Benton as the receiver. And in that process, we came together as a volunteer organization to try to get it restored. And so our aim was to try to figure out what kind of fundraisers we were going to have to do or grants we were going to have to get involved in to try to get it started. And then we were made aware of the MAPS 4 program coming back up. And so we applied to be one of those projects that would be selected. We didn't know if we were going to be selected, but we were fortunate enough to be among the 16 projects. And like everyone said, the MAPS 4 project, really, it was probably the most diverse project they've had here in Oklahoma City because it had buildings and programs all over Oklahoma City, not just in one area or not just in the downtown area. This was a chance for us to get something in there that would be a jewel to the Northeast community and to refurbish something and to establish something that had such historical value, because all of those things that Ms. Luper and the group did in the Freedom Center, we wanted to restore that to be a place, a meeting place, to be able to have a community resource place. And so at the time that we made the application to be a part of it, we also thought about building a Clara Luper Civil Rights Center. And so that's how we got selected and got the community behind us. And the community was already behind us because it was an eyesore. It was falling apart. And so we have basically already started some basic primary, we're doing it in a couple of phases, in 3 phases. restoration work on the Freedom Center, even though the funds will not be coming in for the MAPS program until 3 or 4 years from now. So that's how we got that's how we got connected to that, and it was great. Many people were behind us and voted to put us in and to make sure we got funding, and so we got funded for $25 million.
I love it. That's beautiful. I am so excited to hear that. And I don't really have any real technical questions, but I'm going to ask you this. It just seems like there's a resurgence of that movement, or a big push in the recent years, which I'm super excited about. It's not even my generation, but my kids that are on fire to push us all the way to that real goal of equality, right?
Absolutely. I was so proud to see different groups come out. We're a little old to be out there marching, but we are supportive. All of us that are still here, trying to let people know that we still got a lot of work that needs to be done, because people still were not ever treated equally, and lots of things have come about as a result of the George Floyd situation. Was the impetus to basically set this whole thing on fire.
It totally woke some people up that had been asleep on this movement. So my question really is, for people who are just waking up and they want to be a part of what's going on at the Freedom Center, or they want to be a part of what is going on in the African American community towards equality, they want to participate and they don't know how or what to do, like you, maybe their feet don't want to march. They can't do all of the physical things. What would you suggest that they do to continue to push this movement forward and to continue to back the work that Clara Luper started in our communities?
Well, there are a lot of organizations that are pulling together to do certain things. The Black Lives Matter is working on different community items. That they're working on criminal justice reform. That seems to be their priority. But I would say just reach out to the different organizations that are actually out front doing some things. There are several. You can get involved, of course, with the Urban League, with the NAACP. I've been an NAACP member for years. The NAACP is always at the front line of any kind of injustice that needs to be corrected. They are involved, and I would say reach out to the NAACP, and they can tell you which groups are doing what, because I don't know all the names of the different groups that are doing things, but get with someone that's doing something. If you see a concern, then get with people that have the same concern and are trying to open the doors and have already got a plan to get something done. Speak up. No longer will people sit in the corner and allow things to continue in the manner that they've been going for years. We made some steps forward, and those steps forward opened public accommodation, and those steps forward helped us get into schools and to desegregate a lot of things. But those movements did not create the equality and the proper treatment for people of color in different situations. And so there is a lot of work to be done, and I'm so glad people are awoke and they're out there making their movement known.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of the real estate community and African Americans in general that we thank you for the work that you have already done, and we thank you for what you continue to do to build a better community for everyone. We know that the civil rights movement is not just for Black people, but for people everywhere, and it benefits everyone. And so thank you so much for the work that you have already done and what you continue to do. And I am 110% sure that our conversation will continue. I will find you and we will continue this conversation off air. And if there's anything or any last things that you would like to say, the floor is open to you to say them.
Well, I just want people to know that we are excited that in our lifetime, we're going to see the finishing of the restoration of the Freedom Center and the building of the Clara Luper Civil Rights Center. And that center is to be a place of education, of information, of civil rights programs for us to bring businesses and jobs into our community, because just the fact that we're building something of that magnitude in our community, we're going to be able to offer jobs and bring people to our community, because we're in the adventure district of Oklahoma City. But this will bring easily a fifth or a tenth of the number of people, because right now it's about 2 million people that come to the area because of the zoo, because of the Remington Park, because of the state capitol, all of those things in this district. But for us to have something to bring them in tribute to Miss Luper, who made a difference across the country, not just here in Oklahoma, because her movement, her sit-in movement, basically set the pace and opened the door for other movements, sit-in movements, to be made all across Oklahoma. I don't know if people realize that they always seem to talk about the North Carolina sit-in movement, but Oklahoma was the one who set the example for the North Carolina, because they were part of the NAACP. And Ms. Luper, our sit-in movement was August the 19th, 1958 is when it started, and it didn't end for 6 years. And their sit-in movement started February the 2nd, 1960. And people seem to get that mixed up. But I am so glad and proud to know that people are waking up and things are moving forward, and hopefully we'll see unity and equality soon.
Awesome. Soon. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And it was a privilege for me to have interviewed you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.